Okay, this is video 2, and we're going to talk here about conveying bad news without causing legal problems. There are 3 causes of legal problems that we want to be careful to avoid. One of those is the use of abusive language. Defamation is use of any false statement that harms a person's reputation. Libel is written defamation. Slander is spoken defamation. And abusive language is actionable, which means that legal action can be taken against you. In other words, you can be sued, you and or your company, when it's false, when it's damaging to one's good name, and when it's published. That is, when it's basically made public to someone. That doesn't mean you put it in the newspaper, but when you convey that to someone else, and it is in a form that can be then made public. Careless language, statements that are potentially damaging or that could be misinterpreted. There's an example in your textbook that says, for instance, a tour group was told that they could not be accommodated for a factory tour because it was too hazardous for tour groups. Well, it turned out that there was an employee who had claimed that the conditions in the factory were dangerous to the workers there. And because of that particular email to a potential tour group that the factory was hazardous, this employee got that information and said, "See, the company did admit that the factory is hazardous." And so you want to be careful. Careless language, good guy syndrome. These are statements that make you look good. For instance, you wanted to, maybe the company refused the tour group, a visit. And you said, "I really thought it would be," you tell them, "I really think it's no big deal, but my boss says that it's too hazardous." Or, in the example here on the slide, "I thought you were an excellent hire, but we had to hire, somebody else." So making yourself look good as if some decision was against your wishes, that's another way when you can cause legal problems for your company. As an agent of an organization, be sure your views reflect those of your organization. If you have, which means that you don't want to use a company email account or certainly company letterhead for anything that's not appropriate. Use plain paper for personal views or personal business. If you write an op-ed to the newspaper that is questionable at all, then you don't want to use your title or your company affiliation. Avoid supplying information that could be misused. Don't admit or imply responsibility without checking with legal counsel. Okay, let's continue with delivering good news, or bad news, sensitively. First of all, you present any good news if they are offsetting benefits to the bad news. For instance, maybe the person is asked for a full refund, and you're going to give them a 20% discount on that particular item, or allow them to exchange it, or something else like that. Or a person, let's say they had a bad experience in your restaurant, and you're giving them a gift card. But tell them what you can do. If there's any good news at all, then tell them that. Pay a compliment to them. Thank them, for instance, for being a customer in the past. Thank them for taking the time to contact you. And hopefully it is sincere on your part. As business people, we know that we never get it all right, or we rarely get everything right. And it's hard to keep customers. And it's very easy to lose them. So when you've got the opportunity, a customer complains, you've got an opportunity to try to make things right and win them over or keep them. So pay them a compliment, but here's what you don't want to do is don't thank them for asking for something that you're about to deny them. You can thank them for responding. You can thank them for contacting you, and then talk about how customer relations are so important to you, and the company's always striving to be better. But don't thank them for asking for a full refund and then deny them that refund. Express appreciation for past business or for writing. This is where, by the way, a bit of research can go in to find out if they've been a good customer. Present the facts to objectively introduce the bad news. Show agreement on some relevant point. Show mutuality. That is, Show that you've got agreement on some common concerns. Maybe they mentioned something about product quality. That's important to you. Service after the sale. That's important to you. Consumer or customer confidence and loyalty. Those things are important to both of you, and you want to show that you agree with them. It may be that you can understand their disappointment. If apologize, it admits wrong and expresses regret for the harm. And again, you don't want to violate your company's policy. You want to know what that is with regard to apologizing. But in general, it can be, let's say it's a good thing to do when, but you need to know what the legal implications are in doing so. Avoid thanking the receiver for something you're about to refuse. I just explained that a minute ago, didn't I? Explain clearly but gently the bad news with objective reasons. Except in the case of credit denials. In general, when you're denying someone credit, you have to be very careful. Let's say that you don't give the specifics of what those reasons are. Very often it might have to do with a credit history. It might be some things that are in fact confidential. But again, explain clearly the bad news with objective reasons. And here you're explaining it, not necessarily presenting the bad news or stating the rejection or the negative news, but again, you're building the case, showing why you are unable to give them good news. Look for offsetting benefits. Show how your decision benefits the receiver. In other words, we can't do this, or by providing replacement items only when they're within the warranty period, or only with actual receipts, we're able to keep our prices lower, and to offer more generous return policies, that sort of thing. Use neutral or positive words. Avoid negativity, like words like unfortunately, impossible, trouble, things that you didn't, we cannot. Tell what you can do, not what you can't, if at all possible. Explain, don't just state the policy that's behind the refusal. It certainly doesn't help to state a company policy that, if you can't explain the benefits that policy provides to the customers, to the other stakeholders of the business, the manager, employees, owners, and that sort of thing. Show that the matter was taken seriously and considered thoroughly. Sometimes people just want to be heard, and if you show that that you did gather information, that you weighed, that you understand the pros and the cons of a particular avenue of resolution, then it shows that they were heard, that their complaints were heard, even if they may not get what they wanted. Now, delivering the bad news, cushion the bad news. Position the bad news between other statements. It's what we call subordinate placement. You're burying it in a sense. You're softening and hiding it. For example, use a dependent clause such as, although we can't loan our equipment, we wish you well in whatever. Again, you could say what you can do. We do offer generous plans and generous financing plans for purchases of our equipment. Or embed it in a long sentence or paragraph. Once again, what we see is if it's good news, you state it right up front. It's very prominent. But if it's bad news, we want to subordinate it. We're going to include it. If it's in the first sentence, it's going not to be at the first of the sentence. It's going to be buried somewhere or cushioned within the sentence, or it's going to be in a later sentence even. In general, if you want to make something more prominent, it's going to be in the first sentence of a paragraph, or then the last sentence of the paragraph, and the last place is going to be the middle of the paragraph. With information that you want to subordinate, you're going to put that in the middle of the paragraph, certainly not at the beginning, and neither at the end. Cushion the bad news. Use the passive voice. Instead of saying we don't loan office equipment, or we can't loan office equipment can't be loaned. Imply the refusal when possible, but be certain it's clear. By telling them what you can do, it implies what you can't do. But once again, you've got to, in softening the blow, so to speak, you can be so subtle and coy about it that in fact you don't make the point that you really want to make. And suggest an alternative. If there's a substitute or a discount, something else you can do for them without, if you can't completely comply with or won't comply with their request, then mention that. And then closing. Look forward to future business. If an alternative was offered, suggest action to take advantage of it. For instance, if someone has, if you're giving them not a full refund, but a discount or replacement, tell them who to contact, how to follow up on this. Make it easy for them then to follow up on it and to take advantage of this option, this alternative. And offer good wishes and compliments. See what you can do to salvage the relationship and to maintain good relations. Consider an opportunity for resale if it's appropriate. Sometimes it might not be. Sometimes if you have made a serious error, the most you might be able to do is offer a refund and then leave it at that. But anyway, look for opportunities to maintain the relationship, even to maybe that this difficult time or difficult experience has shown that you're committed to customer care, and it is an opportunity for you to resell. But look for that opportunity. Don't refer to the refusal or bad news again. And as I mentioned in class, don't apologize again. Don't end with that. Once again, I'm very sorry, for what happened. You want to end on as positive a note as possible. In your notes, you've got an ineffective customer request refusal. And we may go over this in class, but what I want you to do to be ready for homework and for the test is to take a paragraph like this, and this is a fairly short one, and you can see here that someone is asking they've been leasing a copier, and they want these lease payments they've made, these rental payments, to apply toward the purchase. And of course, that's not the way leases work typically. When you make your apartment rental payments, that's not payments toward buying the apartment. But in this case, you think about the structure, the buffer, the reasons, the bad news, and then the closing, and overall look and see if the indirect approach, and see if these four elements are revealed here in this letter. If you've got bad news, where should it be positioned in that bad news paragraph? If there's something you have to offer them, do you offer it? Do you give them specific information at the end, for instance, in the closing, of how to take advantage of that offer? So go back and look over the notes for the topic, or the outline, the structure of a negative news letter, and see if it's see how those points are followed or violated in this letter, and make your list of the weaknesses or problems. And then you'll have the opportunity then to look at read through these questions, and to then look at or observe the improved letter that's in your notes.